talking today to Nic Rudnick, who is the CEO of Liquid Telecom. Liquid Telecom is part of the Econet Wireless Group and is a group, and the Liquid Telecom part of that group encompasses a carrier's carrier business with a fibre network in Southern Africa, which we're talking about today, and several other businesses. Nic, tell me about the fibre network and what you've built and what you're planning to build.
We've been building out a fibre network across the southern and central African region, which now encompasses Lesotho, parts of South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and we will be extending that network into Botswana and some of the neighbouring countries in the coming year.
And so what's involved in the parts of Phase 2 and Phase 3 that haven't yet been built?
Well, we still have the main build-out in Botswana, which will be commencing shortly. And beyond that, we have the local access network in a number of the countries where we've already completed the Phase 1 and Phase 2 backbone networks, and extending that backbone network northwards and eastwards into the neighbouring countries.
And you've already got the fibre network up to the border with DRC and Zambia, haven't you?
Yes, correct.
And when will you cross the border into DRC? How long is that likely to be?
Well, we're working very hard on that, and we will hopefully be able to make an announcement regarding that build-out very soon.
It's a redundant network, isn't it? Explain to me what that means for the customer.
Well, in building the network, we have tried to adopt the best building standards. The network is fully ducted, lockable electronic manholes, diverse and redundant routing throughout most of the network, wherever that's been possible, and therefore we're hoping to provide a standard of service that that is unparalleled across the region up until now.
So if I was a Zimbabwean customer or a Zambian customer, how many routes out of those countries have you got, so if one goes down, the other can be used?
Well, we'd like to say in all instances at least two. Moving forward, we will get to the point where it'll be at least four.
Okay, and you are talking about going, obviously you have to stay focused on the business you've got, but you're talking about expanding beyond the region. What are you looking at?
Well, our overall network expansion is an evolution. We will continuously expand the network within the countries that we're in. We will continuously add new redundant routes, but beyond building out those networks within the countries we're already in, we will of course expand beyond there. We will link up with fibre networks which have already been built in some neighbouring countries, but in addition to that we will build out into countries where there is very limited or poor quality fibre services at the moment.
But in South Africa itself, you're looking at, south of Johannesburg, you're looking at using other people's networks.
Yes, I mean we don't want to reinvent the wheel. Where we believe that there are sound and reliable networks, we will obtain capacity on those networks in order to provide our customers with the service they require. But in areas, particularly northwards, where we feel that there isn't sufficient capacity, the quality isn't right, or the pricing isn't right, we will in those circumstances always look at building our own network.
How much has demand increased from 12 months ago?
Demand is increasing all the time, partly proportionately to the reduction in prices, but also partly in proportion to the fact that there has been a lack of availability of capacity historically. So I would say over the past 12 months we've seen an increase in capacity of about eightfold, and we would expect that trend to continue going forward, possibly not at the same pace, but we think that as our network rolls out and as our customers' networks grow bigger, obviously demand will continue to increase.
And what's happened to pricing in broad terms? I mean, obviously you started 12 months ago with a satellite price, which is obviously much higher, but then the fibre prices were pretty similar as well. So what's happened to those prices?
Absolutely. I think 12 months ago the fibre prices were only moderately less than satellite. We're now looking 12 months later where fibre prices have dropped by more than 50%. We think that there is scope for those prices to still drop further. There's lots of fibre going in, there's lots of competing networks going in, and of course that will see a reduction in price. As the new sea cables start arriving on the west coast, we'll see sea cable pricing come down further. So I think all the way around there's good news for consumers going forward.
And in terms of demand, what is driving the demand? What's the increase in data all about? Obviously, in the first instance, in the last 12 months, it was about lack of availability. But going forward, what do you think will be the three things that, in a sense, continue to drive data demand up?
Well, partly it's pricing, but I don't think that that's everything. It's been part of the driver up until now and will be part of the driver in the year ahead. But I think that the local access networks are becoming increasingly important in terms of driving growth. We see a lot of congested local access networks across the region. There's going to need to be more capital investment in those networks in order to see overall data growth.
In other words, at the local access level, there's probably demand, but actually not the means to deliver it at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen that in telecoms historically across Africa in the past. We've seen that with the growth of the GSM networks, whereby voice networks tend to be congested. Then there's network growth, congestion is alleviated.
Yeah.
Then some
comes back again.
Change. It comes back. Seems to go in cycles, and I think we're going to see very much the same with the data networks, especially as consumer behavior changes, and we start seeing consumers moving away from your low bandwidth usage to accessing more high bandwidth usage products on the internet, and start relying on the internet more for video streaming and media access, as opposed
higher
to
bandwidth.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to go in cycles, and as behaviour changes, so the networks will need to catch up.
Nic, thanks for talking to me today.
Thank you.